son is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. We are at Martinsville Speedway this week for the Goody's Fast Relief 500. It's a 500-lap affair, so there's going to be a premium this week on laps led and fastest laps.
We've narrowed the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup down to 8 drivers as we head to Martinsville, Virginia. And, you know, this is a really tight half-mile track, and the only way to get around each other is going to be to move them out of the way. Look for plenty of ruffled fenders and tempers as we race 500 laps this week.
Woo! Interesting fact here. Martinsville is, since 2004, Chevy has won 18 out of 24 races, with Toyota winning the other 6 races. Denny Hamlin won 5 out of those 6 for Toyota.
Thank you, Boy Wonder. The weather is 82 degrees, and it's supposed to be sunny for racing at 1 p.m. Eastern on NBC Sports Network. Let's get right into the racing picks this week, boys. It's time to burn some rubber. Liehr, do the honors.
Burning rubber, Martinsville bumper hole style, baby!
I don't even know what he said there. Like, Adrian, give us your burning rubber pick.
I'm not going to be able to match that enthusiasm, but, you know, I'm not really sure what he said, but it was enthusiastic. That's all that matters. The 48 car, Jimmy Johnson. I mean, this guy's just been a lock in my lineups over the past few weeks, and I know that I haven't been on the show in the past few weeks, but let me tell you, I've been playing a lot of Jimmy Johnson, and it's been paying off. You know, the guy at the mile-and-a-half tracks, you know, he is the definition of, you know, consistency. The guy hangs around all race around in the top 5, and while other people make mistakes, he seems to pound. He's made a lot of mistakes himself over the past few weeks, but I don't see this team making those kind of mistakes as we're down to the round of 8, and those kind of mistakes can cost you a championship for real this time. He has 29 starts at Martinsville. He has 23. He has 18 top 5s and a massive 8 wins. 8 wins at one single track. Jimmy Johnson has a lot of stats like this at different tracks, so it's not as surprising as, you know, Jimmy had that dominant era. But you're still, 8 wins is pretty impressive. The 48 team has, you know, always had success in the round of 8. The only thing is, the problem for the competition is Jimmy Johnson's actually eligible for a championship this year. If you look back over the past few years, he's at least dominated and won Texas. So any way that Jimmy Johnson's not going to string together 3 perfect races, as he's shown that he can do in the past when he won all those championships in a row. You know, I just think the competition needs to watch out for this guy. You know, he scored over 100 DraftKings points in 2 of his last 4 starts. And if you look at the last 2 mile-and-a-half chase races that we've been to, he's finished 1st at Charlotte, and he finished 4th at Kansas. He's just a must-play, in my opinion. I don't see how you're looking for a dominator and you're not playing Jimmy Johnson.
No, I totally agree with you, AW. Jimmy Johnson's going to have a strong week this week to start out the new stage here. And the best part is he qualified 3rd, so he's going to be up in the top part there, and he's going to have a chance to definitely dominate and lead some laps here. You know, Jimmy's 10,500 this week, so he's going to be one of your top-tier guys. But based off of his history, boys, where he qualified, all the indicators are pointing that he's just going to have a dominating race. Do I think he's going to win? I don't know, but I think when it comes to fantasy points, that's why we do this show, that he's definitely going to be one of the dominators here, and he's going to have to be a must-own for your fantasy team this weekend.
Yeah, see, my problem is like, I think you have to make a race vision stand, and if you either have Logano or Truex or Hamlin, I don't know that you also need the Jimmy Johnson play. I don't know that they're all going to share laps this weekend, and you kind of have to take a stand. I like the Jimmy Johnson play. The other play with a guy historically that has that has the ability to put out as much fantasy points historically on this track would be Hamlin, and he's a little bit cheaper. I kind of like going that route a little bit this week too. But, dude, I don't have a problem with the Jimmy Johnson play. It's just I think you'll hear when I talk about my picks that I have a little bit different race vision this week than the Jimmy Johnson play. But I totally understand where you're at, and I respect it. Liehr, who do you have burning rubber, buddy?
All right, guys. Well, it's definitely awesome to be with you on this Halloween edition of the Rubbin' is Racing Fantasy NASCAR show. As you can see, I'm sporting the Robin costume. But I'm going to be going with another guy that I think will be a superhero this weekend, and I'm going to be going with the number 4 team and Kevin Harvick. Harvick's been off to a very strong season so far, obviously. Him and that number 4 team will be looking to lock in the final spot there in the 4 for the championship. But he's back in the Busch car this weekend. Look for another strong week of racing from him. He's got 30 starts here at Martinsville. He's got 1 win, 3 top 5s, and 14 top 10s. And then the best part is that he's going to be starting from the 20th spot this week, boys. And I know his cost is $10,300. So pretty much same as every week, in the top 5 when it comes to the salary cap there. But he's definitely going to be one of those guys that's going to get you place differential along with the dominator points this week, I believe. And this is my race vision. I think, obviously it's going to take a little bit for them to move up in the field. But Martinsville is obviously not one of his best tracks here this weekend. But, he definitely dominates at Phoenix, which is very similar in size and is also a flat track. And like I said, I think it's going to take him a while to move up through the field. But once he does get up to the front of the field and accumulate enough of those dominator points, and with that place differential, he's going to be the main dominator here this weekend at Martinsville. So look for Kevin Harvick in the number 4 to take down the win this weekend. I think they've got an absolutely fantastic opportunity here. And they're going to want to move up to the Final 4 as soon as they can. So I definitely am going to be all over the Harvick play this week, especially starting from that 20th position.
To Harvick or not to Harvick, that is the daily fantasy NASCAR question. Dude, at his price tag at $10,300 and where he's starting, I think you kind of have to start your lineups there this week. There's a couple of other drivers that I love sprinkling in place differential-wise. But as long as you don't have a race vision where there are X number of cars that are splitting the 500 laps relatively evenly, then you'll want more of the place differential plays. I like where your head's at here. The problem is if you play Harvick, you're literally sacrificing a Jimmy Johnson or a Kyle Busch this week. And if those guys are guys that are leading laps, you're going to be punishing yourself because Harvick has to then not only get just the place differential, but also has to lead laps and be the fastest car in order for him to equal what those guys near the front will equal point total-wise. So I like Harvick. I'm going to be exposed to him. I'm starting a lot of lineups there, but just be wary that a lot of times at Martinsville when the accident happens, it happens in the middle of the pack. So sometimes you want just the front cars and the back cars. It for a short track, it functions a lot like a super speedway with the pileups. So I like the Harvick arguments. I would limit your exposure, especially at 10,300. Adrian, your thoughts?
Yeah, you're going to have to play him on a limited basis just because his price is so high. Honestly, the same way with Jimmy Johnson, even though I think he's a must-play. You just can't really predict how these things are going to go. And there's going to be, I think, so many different drivers leading laps. The race might have a pit stop or a caution at a weird time, causing everyone to, get off sequence. A random guy just, go out there like Greg Biffle. He's done it in plenty of races. Just, you hit the strategy right and lead about 20 or 30 laps. Kevin Harvick's got place differential on the side, and he's also got the fact that he's been one of the best cars in the chase, and I think he's going to be a definite lock for the Final 4. In my opinion, I already have Jimmy Johnson for, so I don't think you'd line up out with those 2 drivers. I just think Kevin Harvick has nowhere to go but up, and I don't see any way the guy's finishing outside the top 7.
I'm on the Logano play, which is my burning rubber pick. At 9,800, he's starting the race second, and just like last year in the fall here, he will start along Truex. Now, when that happened last fall here, he got in front. He started on the pole instead of Truex starting on the pole. But he dominated that race for 200-plus laps, for 204 laps, actually, before Kenseth intentionally wrecked him and destroyed my fantasy week as well as his chase hopes. In his last 5 races here, he's led at least 21 laps in every race. The Penske team looks good. They're fast. And to be honest, he would be sitting on the pole if he didn't mess up exiting 3 and 4. So he would have been fine and been actually sitting on the pole. I like Logano as a play. I think this is where I'm starting a lot of my lineups this week.
I don't have a problem with the Logano play. He's been showing a few weeks. But, honestly, I just don't know. I think I like Jimmy Johnson more. I could definitely see the race vision where Logano could go out there and take the lead. I just like Jimmy Johnson more, honestly, and I'm gonna have some lineups with with Logano instead of Jimmy Johnson. But for the most part, I like the Jimmy Johnson play. I know that Logano had a good race here last year, but it was also a different time in the sport. So I'm just gonna roll with a 48 in that spot.
I'm with you, Poppa. I like Joey Logano this week. Obviously with his history here, he's raced here 15 starts, but 4 top 5s and 5 top 10s, and every single one of his last 5 races, he's led laps here. So being in that second position with being second at the start, I mean, he's definitely going to have the ability to lead laps and obtain some fastest laps here. And obviously, with this being a short track, we're going to have a lot of cars being lapped here, and they're going to run into traffic, quite a bit. So it's all going to be about how they can maneuver and get through the traffic without losing positions, but also maintaining those fastest laps. So I think Joey definitely has a real good shot at winning it this weekend. That team's got the momentum coming off of the win last week at Talladega. And they're, still in the chase. And he's one of my top 4 for the Final Four for the championship. And, they're also one of those teams that want to solidify and get into the Final Four there. So with him being up front, he should stay up front all day. And he's going to lead laps and he's going to get fastest laps. So at 9,800, getting this guy under 10K, he's definitely going to be must play in a lot of mine lineups for sure.
Yeah, I just don't know if having a grown man in superhero pajamas conferring with me is making me feel better about my pick at all. No, I was just messing with you. No, I really honestly expect you to throw back a little bit of Truex leading the race there a little bit. Do you also see that vision or not?
I see Truex leading some laps. They've got nothing to race here, race for this weekend here. Obviously to play the spoiler role for these other teams. So I know that they wanted to come back, especially last week after blowing the motor at Talladega and losing out on their chance to win the championship this year. So I think they're going to be strong, but I don't necessarily see him winning the race. But I just, when it comes to Truex, obviously last year he led some laps here too. But I think there's just better options this weekend, and I think other people are going to be motivated to get up to the front and win. And I think that team will definitely have a top 10 finish. I just don't know if in my race scenario, see them being dominant and leading a bunch of laps.
Yeah, Adrian, I want your thoughts on this a little bit too, dude, because I know this is a little unconventional for the way we do the show. Truex has that first pit stall, and at Martinsville, like you told us last time in the spring here, how important that first pit stall was. Is that going to play a huge part in this race? And do you think his vengeance for not making the final round of 8 is going to make him where you have to play him in some lineups?
Yeah, vengeance is a good word because I think that's all that's on Cole Parent and Mark Truex Jr.'s mind this weekend. They're coming in here with a chip on their shoulder after blowing the motor last week. And you're right, the pit stall is so huge at Martinsville. And you're going to notice it just like we talked about previously, and you're going to hear the commentators talk about it all weekend. When these guys are leaving pit road, no one wants to be stuck on the outside lane because then you're going to just keep going backwards until you can find a hole. So you'll see these drivers playing games so that they can be the odd car on pit road so that they're not starting on the outside. So with Martin Truex Jr. having that first pit stall, if he can come out first, that's an odd number, meaning he can pick which lane he wants to restart in based on how the race is going. And if they can keep that car up in the top 5, I think the 78 team can keep putting that car out front first. And I honestly think that he's going to be a top 5 contender all day. And he's going to make one of my lineups. It's not because they're not in the chase that I'm playing him, because I think he's going to play a spoiler role. This team, just because they took that yellow banner off the windshield, does not mean this isn't Martin Truex Jr., who had a dominant 2016 season. Wow. I don't think this season is going to try to go out there and run any slower than they've been running all season. Truex hasn't really had success at Martinsville, but he hasn't had success at a lot of places he's been running this year that he's been absolutely torching these guys on. So, honestly, I like this guy. I like Truex in this spot. He's actually kind of cheap this week. He's not up there near 10K. So, I honestly think that he's going to lead the first part of the race. And unless we have some kind of competition caution, I think he'll lead at least 50 laps. And that's all you're really going to need from him at his call. So, I definitely like the Truex play, even though he's not in the chase.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I love the Truex play. I just really wanted your guys' opinions on that. Like I said, I also really like Hamlin and Kyle Busch also make interesting plays as burning rubbers. They're just guys that we didn't have enough time to dive into wholeheartedly, and they're all basically the same guy. Like, one of those guys is going to dominate, or they're going to share. Like, it's just picking the right group of them. With that said, let's transition to value, because you're going to need some to pay for all these studs, depending on your race vision. Adrian, who do you have for value for us, buddy? I believe that's Casey Kane in the
number 5, Casey Kane. That's right. I'm going to roll with Casey Kane, guys. He's actually not someone that we pick a lot on this show. But, he's actually shown a lot of speed here lately. And it's actually, it's been showing because we actually have started picking him because the speed's actually been there. So, we don't have anything against you, Casey. If you run well, we'll pick you. But, after seeing the way that this guy ran at Charlotte, I don't think that was any fluke. I honestly think that outside of the guys that made the chase, Casey Kane is the best team. And they are, kind of the team who got shunned from the postseason because they had so much trouble over the regular season. But, even with it being down to the round, I think Casey Kane is still one of the top 12 teams in the series. So if he can come from the 22nd starting spot and finish in the top 12, I think it's obviously going to pay off his salary. He has a top 10 finish in 6 of his last 8 starts in 2016. So that's pretty impressive right there. It shows that the guy has been, trying to prove that he should have made the chase as he ended the regular season on a high note. And like I said, when the chase began, they were the class of the field among the non-chasers. So, Truex is going to show the speed for the non-chasers. I think Truex, out of the guys that are eliminated, Truex is definitely going to be carrying the flag for those guys. But, look for Kane to be kind of hanging around the top 10 all day. And he's ready to back up that third-place finish and prove to everyone it's not a fluke. I don't think he's going to be too highly owned either because he's 8,300 and it kind of, hamstrings what you can do to your lineup. Because most people are going to go stud, 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 punt, punt, punt. And I just don't know if that's the way you're going to need to do it on all of your lineups. Casey, if he can have the day he's supposed to and finish around the 8th position, it just seems like a Charlotte repeat and a must play.
Yeah, as far as the double K play, I'm a little hesitant on it, but I see where you're coming from, man. I definitely think that team's had some really good momentum. This last month, 6 races here. Last week disappointed me a little bit because I had him at Talladega and losing it there towards the end, but. Starting from 22nd is definitely enticing for them. Last year at this race, they started 24th and finished 9th. So top 10 finish for him. He's got 5 top 10s and 3 top 5s. So, but definitely one of those guys that can come up through the field and have a top 10. I just don't know if it's somebody that I'm on because I'm right there with you. I'm one of those types where I think this week is going to be stud, 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 dud, I said dud, but dud, when I mean pump play. But a lot of the players, the fantasy players, won't be picking some of those middle tier guys. So they might roll like 1 stud and 2 middle of the road guys, and then some pump plays. So he's definitely going to be an interesting play when it comes to if you're going to take some of those middle tier guys. But you're also looking at you've got Carl Edwards at 8,900. Jeff Gordon at 88, Chase Elliott 86, Larson at 84, and then you've also got Austin Dillon at 8,100, who's starting from the rear of the field. So I just think there's better plays, in my opinion, this week when it comes to salary and guys that perform well here at Martinsville.
On Casey Kane, I actually like the play. I think it's smart. I've been trying to tell you guys for weeks now to keep playing Casey Kane, and it keeps paying off. That car's dialed in, it's fast, and this week we're getting even better place differential points than what we've been getting out of that car. It's just one of those, he's the right play for daily fantasy NASCAR, and I'll continue to make it. But you're right, you have to choose this week because there's a lot of those good place differential guys, and you just have to settle on a race vision and how many studs you have leading this race because there's a lot of these enticing guys. Liehr, who's your guy for some value?
I'll be rolling with Landon Castle in the number 38. Castle's been a good pump play all year, and this weekend we come to one of his more successful tracks that he has on the circuit. So Castle has started 12 career starts here. He's got 0 wins, 0 top 5s, and 0 top 10s. But he's starting in the back like normal. Behind the 30 spot, he's starting in the 33rd position. The only team that scares me that are behind him is Stenhouse and Scott, but everyone else is going to finish behind Castle. So obviously that's going to give him the ability to move up into the field. And his cost is low again this week, boys. It's $5,500. But he will be definitely a great place differential guy and super value cost this week. So I look for Landon Castle to make his way through the field. And I look for him to, honestly, guys, get at least a top 20 finish and not surprise people, because we are going to have some wrecks here with being 500 laps, and it is short track racing. So there is going to be some accidents and guys hopping wheels. I'm just hoping that Landon Castle is not one of them and he can make it through the field. Now, granted, he will get lapped, but I'm hoping that he's one of those guys that can definitely make it up through the field. And at that price, he's going to be a good pump play.
Yeah, man. Like, I'm gonna steal from you from like your last analysis. I like Landon Castle. There's just a lot of other guys I like better, and I'll talk about a couple of them here. I'm gonna give you a 2 on my pick. But like you're right, he's got good track history here. I just don't find myself in a position where I need to play him, and I'll explain that in just a little bit. Adrian, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not really. I mean, he's gonna go a lap down. Jamie's right. It's just all about, hoping that other people have problems and that Landon can keep his nose clean on restarts and things like that. And, of course, he's a smart driver. He's going to do that. But it's just at that, like Poppa said, at that price, you're just picking it out of a barrel and, hoping you pick the right one. So Landon Castle could be a decent play there. There are a couple of guys that I do like more, but it's tough when you get below the 6K range.
That's why, I don't think that necessarily with what's in play this weekend, you have to do it a whole lot. And so my value this weekend is Austin Dillon at 8,100. Look, good old Maverick qualified all the way back in 32nd because he checked the wall during his qualifying run, and then they never got the car to get back out and start doing laps. If you look to his track history here and you throw out the one race where he got caught up in a wreck, you're looking at a minimum plus 12 place differential. And if he can repeat his spring performance in here where he went 29th to 4th, you're looking at North plus fantasy points. Plus, Maverick is pissed about tying Hamlin and not making it into the chase and losing on the tiebreaker. I think that he's going to want to prove that his worth. He's going to want vengeance, just like the Truex play. I don't like fading people when the narrative and where they're set up is this good. Austin Dillon is just a lock play for me. And if you need salary relief, I've been telling you this for a week. Well, Brian Scott's the play. He's the most likely car not to fall a lap down and be able to keep with the guys. He also way underqualified because of a terrible performance, slipping out during one of the turns. That's where I would go instead of Castle, Liehr. That is why I kind of skipped over my analysis there. I like the Scott play and would reach down further to get more money so I can spend up. But that's just where I'm seeing the race this weekend. Adrian, your thoughts?
Just to touch on the Scott play, I was telling Jamie and Poppa about this after I went to the Charlotte race and watched it live in person. These guys start the race and they start these restarts, and you kind of since the TV's not covering it, you can watch the back of the field, so you can kind of see, you can watch your Casey Mears and your Michael McDowells and your guys like that are on your fantasy team. And what I kept noticing was that once the cars get wound up and they start spreading out, the 44 car, who he's priced around, is ridiculous how much speed that guy has compared to those guys. And I don't care about any kind of stats or track history. I would pick Brian Scott at this price just because of the motor that's under that car and it being so much better than everyone else's that are around his price. I think Brian Scott's been criminally underpriced all season long. But as for the Austin Dillon play, I think you nailed it. I mean, the guy has just so much opportunity for place differential. If he can make some passes to start the race, he's really going to need to get up there and make this race so he doesn't go a lap down. And he's got a pretty good driver in Trevor Baynes starting right next to him, so I don't see any way that he's not going to follow Trevor right to the front.
Yeah, as far as Austin Dillon, man, I'm going to be on that play too. I mean, you're looking at a guy last 2 races here with a starting 30th and 29th with finishes of 18th and a finish of 4th. So, you 2 starts in a row where he started in the back of the field and worked his way through, plus the motivation of not making it in last week. That's just got to, irk him to no end. So that they're going to want to come out and perform really well this weekend. So I'm definitely liking the Austin Dillon play. And, talking about Brian Scott, starting 35th, $5,100 for a guy of that caliber is definitely a guy that I like as well. And coming off of a second place finish last weekend at Talladega.
Yeah.
what kind of motivation is that going to give that team in scoring a 66 when it came to your fantasy teams? Yeah. And by the way, props to Poppa on that one for telling you to make the play, because that guy was definitely one that you had to have to take down the tournaments last week. So, Brian Scott definitely again this week is definitely in play.
Hey, but I do want to also touch on the fact that what do you guys think that people are going to probably be point chasing on Brian Scott this week, though, right? Like the Fords were really strong, and it was apparent that the Fords were so strong because Brian Scott ran so well, and because the Fords were so strong. And congrats to them. But what do you guys think that his ownership's going to be, because all these guys trying to point chase on him because they think that's where he usually runs?
Well, dude, my opinion is I think maybe you're giving people too much credit. I don't think that many people, like, first of all, Scott's ownership percentage was astronomically low. So not enough people, like, saw it. And I don't think there are enough people in fantasy sports that went back and, like, broke down how many points he actually accrued. And most of them will probably chalk it up to flukeness. If they do that, then his ownership percentage will probably stay right around where it's been all year, which is sub 8%, which is just crazy for a guy, especially with that caliber. And, you know, like, let's assume that people do get on him. Like, worst case scenario, he gets to 16, and that's still half.
I don't see it getting that high.
I don't either.
Like, I'd be surprised if it was 12.
How about you, Boy Wonder?
I mean, it's crazy. You're talking about a guy that is cost lower than Cole Witt and just $200 more than Greg Galding, who doesn't even race full time on the circuit. So, give me Scott.
Yep.
And he's riding in the American Red Cross vehicle this weekend. So.
There you go. Good cause.
Great Scott.
Good Scott. Wow, good Scott to boot. Good cause to boot. All right, with that said, let's get the going to the garage segment out of the way. This is where we get to talk some trash on drivers or on cars, or maybe it's on DraftKings prices, or maybe we just don't like this driver at all, or his team, or who he stands for. Adrian, give us your go to the garage pick, buddy.
Well, you know, this guy's team actually doesn't like him very much after what he did today. I'm going to take Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the number 17 Fastenal Ford as my going to the garage pick. And this might sound crazy coming from a Roush Fenway homer, but bear with me on this. The guy's already in a backup car after he had problems in qualifying. He's starting 39th, and he's going to the rear, so there's -1 right there. We're off to a bad start already. I just think I'm going to go ahead and start by saying I think this is the definition of a trap play. I think that this is a trap play if there ever was one. You know, he has 7 starts at Martinsville. I'm going to tell you where he's finished in those 7 starts. 25th, 31st, 40th, 15th, 40th, 39th, 32nd. I mean, other than that 15th, where was Ricky Stenhouse? I don't even know if I could find his driver's suit on race day morning when we come to Martinsville. I just think the leaders are going to catch the field so fast. I don't think people realize even how fast Martin Truex Jr. and Jimmy Johnson, Joey Logano are going to be charging up to the back of this pack. And Ricky Stenhouse is going to be the very last car in line when they take the green flag. Even if the car is fast, I don't really care if you put Kevin Harvick back there. If we have a decent green flag run, he's probably going to go a lap down just because it's so hard to pass at Martinsville, especially when most of the racing back there is going to be too wide and nowhere to go. And I don't see a way that Ricky's going to be able to get through the field in time to not go a lap down. And the way I see it going, I think he's going to go a lap down, and then he's going to probably go another lap down. And then it's just going to become a hole that he's never going to build out of because there's going to be so many cars on the lap down because of how fast these drivers are racing. If you look back to Dover, do you guys remember how fast Martin Truex Jr. was lapping everyone? He lapped up to 8th place at one point. There's no way I'm playing Ricky Stenhouse this week, guys. He's guaranteed at 7,400. He's way too much money, and in my opinion, he's guaranteed to finish 3 laps down.
That's you said exactly what I was going to say at the end there. I was just going to drop the ditto and say 7,400 and leave it at that. But yeah, I'm not on the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. play. I mean, it is enticing because he is starting so far in the back of the field, but I just don't see it from them this week. He's ready for his season to be over. So he can concentrate on his relationship with Danica. So I'm just off the 17 train this week.
All right, I'm gonna shelve his relationship problems and his track history a little bit here for one thing. If I see this car practicing really well as the other Roush cars, I will expose my lineups to him several times. But your analysis is just spot on, dude. If he gets caught up, he's going to be laps down. But at the same time, dude, like, those 3 cars have the ability to be top 15 cars, and they're all starting fairly far back. And you can get good place differential out of all the Roush cars. So it's a double-edged sword, man. And, like, yes, he is expensive, but it's not a point where.
Well, I mean, I have the same worry about Trevor Bayne too, starting 31st. That team just hasn't seemed to have the fire off speed. I've been watching them since he's my favorite driver, and the Roush cars just don't have the fire off speed when the race actually gets going. And Trevor's actually talked about how that's been a consistent problem all year, is they just haven't had the speed to fire off. And the short tracks have actually been the weakness for Roush Fenway Racing. Even though Ricky Stenhouse is so good at Bristol, those stats just don't really translate to Martinsville. And I kind of have the same worry for Trevor Bayne that I do for Ricky Stenhouse. Just the fact that the leaders are going to be coming so fast. And I just think lap traffic is going to be a big thing, and you're going to see a premium on track position come Sunday.
All right, Liehr, who are you sending to the garage this week, man?
My going to garage pick this week, boys, is I'm going to be going with the 23. I'm a Pepper 2, David Reagan. Reagan's group has been grouped with the pump plays all season long. Obviously due to the equipment that he's in and where he starts each week. But he actually performed okay last week at Talladega, scoring 37 points. But that was due to the fact that he started obviously in the back of the field. Reagan started 20 times here. He's got 1 top 5 in the spring of 2015, where he started 20th and finished 5th. And he's got 3 top 10s. But this week he overqualified, boys, in the 12th spot, and his cost is $5,800. And I just think you can spend that money on a lower costing driver like a Brian Scott or Landon Castle and get the place differential, where David Reagan's just going to be going to the back of the field, and he's just not going to finish that high. I mean, he could have a top 20 finish, but I just don't see him finishing higher than where he's starting at here. So it's just not going to make it worth your while to play him. So staying off the David Reagan play this week.
No, congrats to that team for having a top 12 qualifying effort, and I mean, it's great for that team. Dude, there's just no way you can play him on risk of place differential loss. Like, I see a -10 place differential starting off as a fairly easy starting point, and that's just the unfortunate reality of the equipment he's in. And I like the car. I love the sponsor. Good looks for Dr. Pepper. Good looks for him as a driver, but not a play I can make for fantasy NASCAR this week. Adrian?
Actually, believe it or not, guys, last week at Talladega, David Reagan was on all 5 lineups that I made, and it actually paid off for me. David Reagan had a pretty decent result. They got the lucky dog after, I believe it was the crash that involved Biffle and Jeffrey Earnhardt and those guys. So once they finally got back on the lead lap, they had a pretty good race. And I also want to say that David Reagan is an incredibly nice guy. The guy signed like 8 hero cards at one time for me in the garage at Talladega. But that doesn't. I don't think that's going to translate to him having a good fantasy day. Congrats to that team for qualifying well. It's going to make the sponsors happy to have that car, so close to the front of the grid on race day morning. But I don't look for it to finish in the top 20. David Reagan, I could see him matching his car number this week, and I think that would be a good result.
All right, so another car that we're sitting in the garage, and this is one I have no problem talking smack on, especially since he gets to leave next year. I'm sending Smoke to the garage. Look, we've been to this rodeo before, and when Smoke qualifies top 10, you can't play him. It's that simple. This is one of those weeks, and since he costs me so much money this year, I feel absolutely no guilt whatsoever about talking trash on him. So I want to tell you why you seriously shouldn't play him. I went through and broke down every performance he's had here statistically. When he qualifies either 6th or 7th, as he's qualified 6th this week, he has only not fallen back 2 of 8 times, and he averages falling back into the 20s. Of those 2 of 8 times, he's only gained positive place differential once, and it was 3 spots. The other time he went 7-7. Guys, Tony Stewart's a mirage. Like, even if you're not looking at where he qualifies in 6th or 7th, the guy is manic here to say the best. You just never know what you're going to get. I think it's the easiest fate of all time with where he's qualified. Just trust me. You don't want a piece of smoke this week, or your lineups will go up in smoke. I just love saying that. I'm going to miss saying that.
I'm actually going to be glad when Tony Stewart's gone because I'm not too big of a fan of his. But Poppa's spot on. I mean, the guy's gonna fall back. He's gonna start the race, and you're gonna look at your lineups, and you're gonna be like, man, there's so many people ahead of me. But it's gonna be because they have Tony Stewart, and their lineups are gonna go to the back, probably after the first pit stop. It's funny. Last week at Talladega, all the spotters were noticing how Tony Stewart was kind of hanging out at the back, and TJ Majors, the spotter of the 88, walks up to Bob Jeffries, the spotter of the 14. He said, hey, man, is Tony going to get up there? And Bob Jeffries is like, no, we're all right back here. So, it just kind of shows that Tony's on cruise control. He's already said that he's tired of racing with these idiots. So I don't see any reason he's going to go get up in the way of these chase guys trying to fight for a win. And that's exactly what he's going to have to do if he's going to have any positive place differential, is he's going to have to beat all the chase drivers.
Yeah, it's just a play that I can't make, fellows. I'm just not going to go there, and that's basically all I need to say about that.
Boy wonder, succinct and to the point. All right, guys.
I'm just saving our viewers viewing time. I don't need to waste their time on that play.
Exactly. Let's go ahead and get into the picks part of the show. All right, guys. Now is the segment of our show where we put together a lineup that will be in the 12K lug nut this week. Remember, we encourage you to deviate from this lineup. The purpose of us putting together this lineup is to just show you the proper process and the way we go about analyzing fantasy NASCAR players. Boys, Adrian, you haven't been here for a couple weeks. You want to start us off?
I'm gonna go ahead and take Jimmy Johnson so that the money's not gone by the time my pick comes around again.
So we're gonna go ahead and plug Jimmy Johnson at 10.5 on this team. That puts us at 7,900. Liehr, where do you want to go, man?
Going with the 4, brother.
All right. So
I believe that he will win.
That's right.
There you go. So we've literally picked 2 of the 3 expensive drivers this weekend.
Also, statistically, the best 2 drivers at Martinsville in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series over the past 10 races, I think.
Fair enough. Like Hamlin would be one as well if you wanted to throw him in there. I would definitely say Hamlin too. But yeah.
I don't make the loop data, boys. I don't make the statistics. I just read them out.
Fair enough. I'm kind of leaving Liehr in the major picture just so people can get the full view of him in that Robbins outfit with that fantasy NASCAR hat on. It is glorious. Glorious. I kind of want to throw Truex on here, and then we each have to make a value pick.
I actually kind of like that because I don't see any way that you're. Because
do you like?
Yeah, because I don't think that Jimmy Johnson's going to lead from lap 1.
No,
he
won't.
Truex more than you like Logano?
No, but I already have Logano lineup, so for the purposes of this, why not put him on there? And Logano's $400 more expensive, and I think that that's going to hamper one of us making a value pick here in a little bit.
Gotcha.
I mean, I could be wrong. We can toy it. We can go back to Logano if we want, but
that's up to you.
Let's do a Truex one. All right.
I like the Truex.
All right, Adrian. We got $6,600 per driver remaining. Where do you want to go?
$6,600 per. It's a really tough choice when you get around this price tag. I just think that we roll with the guy that we've been talking about so much, Brian Scott and then American Red Cross Ford.
I agree, and that gives me and Liehr more money to play around with. Look at how nice you are.
Did you guys see that scorcher of a lap that Michael Annett put down in qualifying? It was so fast that it didn't even register anything on the stopwatch.
Man, he was just lucky that there wasn't an extra
It was just
driver.
A bunch of zeros. He's like the Flash.
All right, Liehr, $7,350, man. Where do you want to go?
He was gearing up for his Halloween costume.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm probably gonna go with our other value guy, which would be Austin Dillon.
That's actually what I was just looking at. Let's go ahead and throw Austin Dillon on there. That leaves $6,600 for me to pick a guy with or gal, but it won't be Danica this week. I either want to make the Busher play here or the McDowell play. In all honesty.
For me, it's Menard, Busher. That's about all as far as I'd go.
Dude,
you got a lot of money to spend there, so I would probably I like Menard mainly because the equipment's better.
No Menard for me.
I guess that puts us on the Busher play. Busher it is. Why are you anti-Menard this week, man?
Just not feeling it from the number 27 team. They're starting from the 18th position, and I just think there's better options out there. Now you will get them, obviously, I think at a low ownership percentage, but I like more of a punter play down further down the line there.
All right, guys.
Top 15 in 4 of his last 5 starts for Paul Menard. He had a top 15 in 4 of his last 5 Martinsville starts.
I mean, that sounds like a legitimate argument to me to replace Busher with Menard.
And that includes the 8th place earlier this year while he led 10 laps.
All right, we're sold on, like, let's do the Menard play. Yeah, dude, why not? Like, he's been putting up the 30s and 20s that you need out of that. And you would like a little bit more. But the rest of our lineups where most of those points are coming from. All right, guys, just a reminder, that lineup was Jimmie Johnson, Kevin Harvick, Truex Jr., Brian Scott, Austin Dillon, Paul Menard. Batman, what do you think of that, buddy? How are you doing?
I like Superman.
Who's your pick this week, Oracle? Who's going to win the NASCAR race? Which pick a number?
3.
The 3.
Austin Dillon, folks.
Austin Dillon, folks.
Austin Dillon is the play. The Oracle has spoken.
The Oracle has spoken, kids. With that said, we'd like to thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Rubbin' His Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. Remember, if you like, share, and comment, we're giving away the Biffle as long as you can get in the top 10. And guess what, guys? We like you all so much. If somehow you can't get a top 10 finish between now and Homestead, we'll still, as long as you're commenting and liking the show, we're going to definitely give it away at Homestead to one of our lucky listeners and watchers. So thank you guys for participating. We know it takes time and you dedicate your time to watching us, and we appreciate that. So, Liehr, let's let you and the Oracle say goodbye, Batman and Robin style, and then we'll let Adrian say goodbye.
All right, guys. Appreciate you guys watching the show. Hope everybody has a great holiday Halloween weekend. I know we're going to have some fun. You ready to have some fun this weekend? And we definitely will have some fun watching the race too. And thanks for watching. And appreciate the love, guys. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, I just want to mention how awesome it is that Jamie and Jackson both have on their Batman and Robin suits. Jackson's always been the leader of that duo, I feel like. So it's fitting that he's Batman. But yet again, like Poppa said, it takes a lot of practice, to get good at building these lineups. And we hope that we're helping you guys get better with each show that you watch, and we really appreciate you watching.
I mean, it's only appropriate that he's wearing the Batman costume as the leader, but he's also the better fantasy expert. We're just waiting for him to get old enough to take Lear's spot on the show. We're just playing Lear. We love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week. Let's win some money, guys.
Have a good week, everybody.